Hey class, so I want to give you all a quick introduction to human-centered design. One of the key things that differentiates human-centered design is that it actually starts with people, with the human. And so one of the ways you can think about it is it's differentiated from, say, technology-centered design, which might kind of start with an example of like, hey, we've got this really cool thing. How do we sell it to people, right? That's kind of starting with some, technological innovation and then figuring out how to make a product out of it. Human-centered design is different in that it says, let's start by talking to people and figure out what they actually need, and then figure out how to maybe bring together existing technologies, or maybe a new technology needs to be invented, but you're not doing that until you have a really good sense that there actually is a need from people to make this thing. And typically what happens is folks either start with technology or business. They say like, hey, let's figure out how to make the most money. That's where we're starting from. And then, how do we get those pesky people to actually buy our thing? This is very different in that it's starting with people as an inspiration point. Now, what has to happen for a viable business, even if it's a nonprofit, is that there has to be some way to kind of sustain the product. So it's not that business and technology aren't critical for kind of an effective, sustainable design, but it's just you're starting with people as the point of inspiration, and then driving all design decisions based on that. There's a lot of different flavors of design thinking, and I'll share videos with you all to give you a sense of those. I'm going to teach you the more or less the way that I learned it when I was a graduate student at Stanford, and the D School, which is something that came out of the product design program. I'm going to teach it to you in a linear way, which is you start with a sense of empathy for users, then you define a challenge, you come up with a frame on it, you ideate, you come up with lots of ideas about how to address the challenge with that particular vantage point, then you do rapid prototyping and you test it, and then maybe you start over again and you do a bunch of iterations. As you all know, it's not always a linear process, but the way we'll be doing it in class is more or less linear. A couple of things you want to keep in mind. One is just a sense of courage, right? This is going to require you to work in a different way, and your ability to work, to be courageous, to try things, to kind of take risks. Those are all things that will help you to be successful as a designer, and particularly as a human-centered designer. And as I mentioned, I think the other day, the thing that really allows folks to do more with less skills, you don't have to be as smart all the time, you just have to have the courage to think in a different way, and that's often going to make you seem smarter. It's going to make you seem kind of more creative, because you're able to look at things that typically, to folks who are more kind of risk averse, are not. So one is sense of courage. Second is a sense of commitment. You really have to, these go hand in hand. You have to really put the time in. This isn't something that you can do a shortcut. So I would say just like put your hours in. You're gonna struggle. When you struggle, that's a sign that you're learning. You're developing new neural pathways. So really commit to that idea of being, able to sit with this discomfort to get help, right? It's not, struggling is different than just kind of taxing yourself into kind of oblivion, right? The idea is that you're gonna wrestle with things and get support from me, from the teaching team, from your cohort. So, but if you don't commit, there is very little likelihood that you're actually gonna get out of this class what you need to get in order to be effective as a human-centered designer. And the third piece is just really a sense of curiosity. It's going to be very difficult to do this work well if you're not curious about other ways of thinking, about what other points of view are, about how other people do things. That goes for your classmates, that goes for the teaching team, that goes for what you hear from users. So really, the sense of curiosity is going to help keep you and your mind kind of expanding and help you be able to integrate a lot of different ways of thinking. Two other things I want to share with you. One is this idea of a growth mindset, which will come up in the reading. That's going to be really critical for you all. Just thinking about the fact that I'm not expecting anyone right now to be an expert in this. My expectation is everybody in the class has the ability to be able to do this well. Um, that, whether or not that happens, it really depends on kind of how well you can commit to doing the work, how well I can help and support you in that. Some of that relies on you and your ability to work and the discipline to wrestle with the material. Some of that relies on me, my ability to support you. If you feel like you're not getting the support you need, please let me know. I'm totally open to changing things up to better suit y'all. Those are just a couple of the highlights that I wanted to share with you about the course. Again, we'll be doing plenty of reading, supporting material, all that kind of stuff, but I just want to share with you that quick overview of the types of things that, one, are necessary to do well in the course, and two, to give you a sense of what to expect and what you can get out of it. Okay, I'll see you all soon.